So I'm actually not Elaine Blakely, as that first name says, but Elaine's going to be coming a little bit later. Elaine is a 4th year in our program. She's actually going out on internship. She matched to her first choice, which is really, really fantastic. If you have any idea about the medical residency match, that's how it works for us when we try and match for internship. So she's a 4th year. She's going to actually be a school psychologist next year in Sci-Fair ISD. So she's going to be coming in to talk to us. I am actually Elena Dosky. I am from Dallas, Texas, like legitimately Dallas, not like Grapevine or Plano or another place like that, like Dallas. I went to Ursuline in Dallas. Anybody? Yeah. All right. 2 bears. Good deal. Sweet. So I went there for high school. I went to Loyola University in New Orleans for my undergraduate, where I studied psychology and Spanish. After that, I got my master's in education from the University of Notre Dame, and was a high school teacher in English and Spanish for 2 years, which eventually led me here to Texas A&M. So I'm a 2nd year in the school psych program here at A&M, and just really happy to be here and kind of talk to you guys. Hope you can get that last text message sent. I know it's really important to tell your friends where you are at 9:10 in the morning on a Friday. They're probably looking for you, waiting to go out with you already. So just make sure you get that last text message sent, put your phones away. Hopefully we won't be too boring, and that will keep you awake as we go on.
Okay, my name is Amanda Drake. I'm actually from Austin, Texas, but there's a reason I did not go to UT. So I actually went to Baylor, got my undergraduate in psychology, and then I came here right afterwards. We have an awesome program here at A&M in which I was able to get my master's on my way to my PhD. So I have my master's in education, and right now I'm working on my PhD. And currently, as a 3rd year, I am actually out in the schools kind of practicing being a school psychologist while being supervised by other school psychologists. Right now I'm out at Davila, so I don't know if any of y'all are out there teaching right now. I'm sure you've seen me around. I've said hey, hopefully. I'm only there 2 days a week because I still have all my other classes and dissertation right now, but yeah, so.
I'm Brittany Warnick. I'm actually from Rowlett, Texas. I went to high school in Rowlett. I did my undergrad at A&M in psychology and sociology. I am class of 2010. Then I went up to UNT to get my Master's of Science in Educational Statistics and School Psychology, which led me back here to get my PhD in School Psychology. So, our website is sas.tamu.edu. If you see any of us in the schools, feel free to ask us questions. We have a number of 3rd years, 4th years in the schools, willing to help. You just approach us, okay? We're game, helping. We love people. We really do. Testing. Schedules. What else?
Anything else? You can be totally wrong. That's fine. Don't be ashamed.
Come on. It's going to be a long presentation. You guys don't talk. Promise.
We're therapists, so like we love awkward silence.
Yeah, we do. We're really good at it.
We'll sit there in session for like 15 minutes with no talking. It's fine.
We got counselor, we got testing, schedules.
Children.
All right, good. Mind control. Yeah.
Anything?
Helping kids understand what's going on within their own minds.
All right, at least 2 more.
Yeah. Come on. Emotions.
Excellent. Who said at risk? Cool. All right.
Okay. So in school psychology, or what school psychologists do, we're the people in schools trained in both education and psychology that are able to help children become more successful academically, socially, and emotionally. So what does that mean to you all?
Succeed.
in life?
Oh, succeed, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I was like, see, yes, succeed in life. So those 3 different domains are really what we're about. We're not just about testing. We're not just about helping them with the emotional breakdown that they might have because they have test anxiety. And we're not about just making sure they have friends and they're influencing people. All right, these are all kinds of different levels that we can help you guys as teachers. One of our favorite roles is consultation, just because this is something we can do with you at any point in time, and it reaches a lot more students in just the one-on-one testing that what we're traditionally thought of. Then we have the assessment, which is what we're traditionally doing. Intervention, design, and implementation, so we guys can help you design behavioral or academic interventions, implement them, see what's working, see what's not. Prevention programs, so we all love our famous triangle, right? So looking at that universal level of prevention. Research and planning, what we do in our ivory tower to trickle down to the schools and help you all. And then crisis intervention and response, and that's really, Elaine's a really great expert on that. She's taken a lot of courses on that, so we're gonna have her talk a little bit more on that. So consultation, in a nutshell. We collaborate with parents, teachers, and administrators to find effective solutions to learning and behavior problems. So we have little Amanda, who is spacing out during class. Why? We don't really think she needs special ed services. She's just spacing out a little bit. You don't know really how to handle it. Come talk to us. We can come in and see some ways you can handle it. If you're stuck, you've tried X, Y, and Z. I really don't, I'm lost. She's not responding to any of the tier 1 interventions or any of the evidence-based practices that you guys have learned. Okay, we might have some more tools that can help you. So consultation for one child, so if you consult with Amanda, you might also help Elaine and Elena and myself. And you can also help people in multiple classrooms. So how many of you are teaching like are gonna go in like middle school, high school? Okay, so you guys are not gonna just have your one elementary school class that just sits there all day, right? So you're gonna have people coming in and out. We help others seek to understand child development and how it affects learning and behavior. You're not gonna teach, you guys have a basic understanding of child development. We are trained in it to the nth degree. Okay? Anything, if you guys don't get a concept, they could be not emotionally with their peers. And we can help you see what level they're on. And then we strengthen the working relationship between teachers, parents, and service providers. If a kid has cancer and is coming back into the schools, a school psychologist can work as a consultant between all 3 providers and help them. Okay, so case example. 9-year-old student displays behaviors that you see as being disrespectful. During popcorn reading, she has the tendency to get up and leave the classroom. Anytime she's called on to answer a question, she stutters and her classmates giggle. She usually provides the correct answer but doesn't like to be called on. What are you thinking as her teacher?
Call out, it's okay.
She's insecure about herself.
All right, cool. She's insecure about herself. What else?
She's afraid of saying the wrong answer.
Okay, maybe there's some fear of failure going on there. Good?
Embarrassment.
Okay. What else? What's going on? What could be happening with our dear 9-year-old? Let's give her a name or him a name. Who's our 9-year-old? It's a girl, right?
It's a girl.
She. What do we want our name to be?
Amanda.
Amanda. Oh, come on. We have an Amanda right here. Some other name. Claire. That's a lovely name. Good. Claire. All right, what else could be going on with Claire?
What's wrong with Claire?
She could have gaps in her reading abilities.
Gaps in reading ability.
Cool. What else?
She could have a speech problem.
Yeah, it could be something with apraxia or something. Good.
Dyslexic.
All right.
What else?
GT.
Your initial GT.
Oh, it's just the
Okay, great. Thanks. Sorry. We do. That's one thing that we don't learn as much about, which I wish we did.
Yeah.
The other side of the spectrum. What else? Good answer so far.
Maybe she's just shy.
Okay. Yeah. Just I don't like talking.
Yep. Form of autism.
Form of autism.
Okay. Somewhere along the autism spectrum.
She has no means of coping with stress in her life, so she needs to be taught some way to cope with things.
Okay. Good. Anything else? You're doing great. That's 10. That's fantastic. Do we want to chime in with some others?
Yep. What do you think she does when she leaves the classroom?
Okay, possibly to the bathroom, sure. So if this girl's going to the bathroom every single time that she leaves the classroom, what are some things that could make you start thinking?
She has a bladder infection.
Okay, she could. Here's the thing. This girl could have a urological problem and just have a bladder infection, and it's really
You
good.
need medical help.
Yeah, like she actually needs to see a physician more than anything else. You're right, she could have a bladder infection. Excellent.
Now, for y'all middle school and high school teachers, what happens in the bathrooms?
Nothing good.
Nothing
Yeah.
good. Good.
You're lucky if it's just going to the bathroom.
So, middle school, high school teachers. What happens if she's going to the bathroom?
Smoking.
Sure, she could be. Claire, 9 years old. Could be smoking at age 9.
To be middle school, she's in kids' grades, man.
All right, Claire goes to the bathroom, so those are some possibilities. Where else could Claire be going when she leaves the classroom?
Another classroom.
Sure, another classroom. She could be going to the nurse. So if there's another classroom, there's a lot of possibilities.
We have that happen a lot at our school with our ED kids. We'll go from they are worried about an assignment that they hadn't turned in, so they'll come back to our reading class and we'll talk and stress out about it and freak out. They're supposed to be in math, but
They come
Sure.
back to
they're
read.
back in reading.
Yep. So another classroom's possibility. The nurse is a possibility as well.
Roaming the hallways.
Yeah,
Yes.
right. Our favorite. What are you doing? Oh, I got sent here. Oh, you didn't get sent out here. Claire could be walking out of the building.
Yeah, what happens if Claire runs away from school? Especially our Bryan middle school teachers. Where are our Bryan middle schools located? On highways.
Yeah, so that's it. All of these things are possibility. When she's leaving the classroom, where is she going? So, what else? Some other things that we can think of with Claire. That why we get consulted to come in. Do we have any idea what's happening in Claire's home life? No. Perhaps Claire is in a home where she's not in a supportive home environment. She's maybe in a not necessarily physically abusive, but verbally abusive home where she's expected to do things at the right time, and if she doesn't do it right then, she's punished. So this idea of popcorn reading, which is sudden and immediate demand on her, triggers some sort of stress for her. And she thinks like, I can't do this. It's too hard for me at home. I don't want school, which is the place where I'm supposed to be safe, to be the place where I have to do this.
She can also, you guys remember the West blow-up quarter life zone thing? She could have been reading during that. Triggers some PTSD.
So all these things are possible, and that's what's that's what's nice about our role to be able to consult with you guys, is that what is going to be our initial thought? I think we would be crazy if the three of us were like, oh yeah, totally popcorn reading issues, PTSD for sure.
Yeah.
No, like, we don't jump to that conclusion right away. We're going to jump to the conclusions that you all mentioned. Maybe she's got some social anxiety. Maybe she's just behind in reading, and that she struggles with that. Perhaps she has speech delay, and that's why she doesn't like speaking out loud. We're going to start with those things, obviously. I mean, don't try and search for something that's too hard to find when it might be right in front of your face.
Right. We don't go looking for problems that aren't there.
Yeah, that's a waste of everyone's time. But notice how many other things could have been going on with Claire. That, man, this was just a popcorn reading issue, but when you start to unravel all the layers of this, you may find out that there's something deeper going on there. Hopefully not. Hopefully it's just, I mean, I don't want a child to be behind in reading. Please don't take me as saying that. Like, yeah, hopefully she just has a reading delay. Sweet. No, we don't want that for Claire. But hopefully we can find the answer much sooner. Yeah?
But the other key on there is like when it says she usually provides the correct answer. So that wouldn't make me feel like she's behind.
Sure, so it could be something where maybe she does have a reading fluency problem, but she's able to get there eventually, but her rate is behind.
Yeah, her
So
comprehension is good, but her rate.
But her rate is slow. Or you have something like this where I just need more time. I have a speech delay. I know what it is, and I get nervous though, so you could have a combination of things where you have the speech delay plus the anxiety that in that moment, I know what I'm supposed to say, but I mean, how many times do you get there in front of a test in college where you know exactly what the answer is, you know what it's supposed to be, and then you sit down there and you're in this high pressure environment and your mind blanks. You forgot. If you had a little bit more time and could relax a little bit more, then the reading can come out.
This was actually a case I had when I consulted in the schools in Louisville ISD. Just FYI. All right, assessment. So we evaluate for eligibility of special education services. So little Claire does have, you guys do all your CBM measures that you have been trained to do. Still falling behind. Do the tier 2 supports, still falling behind. You get, hey, I really think that she has a reading disability. Can you check this out? Sure. We'll get the consent signed. We'll talk to mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, guardian, whoever it is. We'll assess her IQ achieve, do all the things that we do. One of our favorite things is handing you guys as teachers rating scales. Sorry, you guys spend the most time with the child each day, right? You guys know about peer interactions, about alone time, everything about the kid for 8 hours. So you guys, with the family, are our best reporters for the emotional output. So if you ever get a rating scale and have questions, just ask. And please, don't get mad at us. We're just doing our job like you do your job. We know it's a lot. Believe me, we do. So we assess the academic skills and how she learns. We also will look at, does she do better as a visual learner, auditory learner? Determine socio-emotional development and the mental health status of each individual. So if you think there is the anxiety problem, looking at that to see if her oral reading fluency is great, but it's an anxiety problem, we can get her into a counseling situation to learn the coping skills that someone mentioned to help her decrease that high anxiety and performance level. And then evaluate learning environment. So we evaluate how
So current level of supports in the classroom, everybody knows about least restrictive environment, correct? Yeah, so we're going to try and see if we go in there for an individual evaluation, is this child in the best setting possible to ensure their academic and social emotional success? Is there something, could there be a better environment for this child when we come in to do an evaluation? So we're looking at learning environments from that perspective of, is this child getting the supports that they need in the classroom in order to be successful? You know, one thing with assessment, these are, as we go through this, we want to offer you ways, we have a big time portion dedicated to this at the end, but when we do our assessments, we need your help. Brittany mentioned the rating scales, but to me it's always fascinating having taught where it's like, look, we're going to assess this child to see how they're doing academically and social emotionally, and what we're going to do is we're going to pull them out of classroom time to do that. So let's remove them from the instructional environment where they need to be for a significant portion of time to do this really long testing procedure. Every time I walk into a classroom and do that, I'm like, what am I doing? This is so backwards. But this is the reality of it. If we're doing a Tier 3 special education evaluation, we have to pull the kiddos out of class. But you can help us by saying, please don't come during this time. We have a test that day. And this kid has missed the last 2 tests because they've mysteriously been absent on test day. And I really think they're going to make it in. So if you could not assess during my test, I would really appreciate it. Tell us that. The last thing we want to do is pull a kiddo out of your class and make you upset. Nobody wins in that situation. You're on the front lines. You're the one delivering care and instruction to the kiddos. So keep us informed about what time works, what things are good. You know, I know it's hard to like read your email and send those emails back. I get it. I mean, you know, when we're like, hey, can we come during your prep? You're like, no.
My alone time.
That's the time when I like try to go to the bathroom. No, I can't talk to you then. I get it. I took naps at my desk during my prep when I taught. I was so tired. Just like turned off the lights and I kind of hid and was like, nobody come in here. So I didn't want to have meetings then. I know. It stinks. But sometimes, you know, we want to get in there. It's up to you. We can meet during your prep, or we can meet at 7:15 in the morning, or at 4:30. But, you know, if you want to stay after, cool. That's fine. But we get it. Just keep that communication honest and open with everybody, because none of these things are going to work if we don't know exactly what's going on and works what's best for you.
I actually had a teacher that did a really great job of that the other day. There's some benchmarking, and I was like, oh, can I come in that afternoon and do some testing? And she was like, you know what, I think it might be best if you give her, we're going to go to recess right afterwards for 30 minutes. And she tends to do a lot better when she's kind of had her recess. And so that teacher actually helped me within the testing situation, because I was unsure on how this child handles things. And she essentially was like, she's going to be all over the place for you if you take her right after testing. Like, that's just, she had a very high energy level. This child, she actually was OHI for ADHD. So, of course, I'm just, you know, I got my schedule. I'm like, okay, is this best? And she was like, oh, let's think about this. You know, like, I know her very well. And so it actually helped me a lot in that situation.
Because we really see the kids for assessment once a year at most, more likely once every 3 years. You guys will know them better, promise. We are willing to work with your schedules if you're willing to communicate with us. We don't mind doing anything for you guys. That's really what this is all about. Alright, another case example. Dexter. I was going to name him Dexter Morgan because I'm obsessed with the show Dexter, and it was really sad it ended. I didn't know if anybody would get the reference. So, Dexter, 13-year-old male, has been diagnosed with ADHD and has been receiving services since he was in kindergarten. The recommendations are being reviewed every year to ensure Dexter's IEP goals were being met. They have been. Everything has been up to date. New ones added, other ones removed. At the beginning of his 8th grade year, he started struggling in school. Why?
Call out, it's all right.
Hormones.
Yeah. He's an 8th grader.
He's an 8th grader. Well, emotional?
Social problems.
Social?
Social, okay.
What about sports?
Just, I don't know, 8th grade's kind of like the beginning of like where sports become important, I guess.
Maybe his medications interacting differently with his body.
Sure.
It's like growing.
I think there was a medication comment right back here as well. Is that right?
I was just wondering, because sometimes with when they reach puberty, the medication that they have stuff with it.
Yeah. Sure. What else?
Well, at that age, I feel like his parents like make him responsible for taking his medication, so maybe he's not.
Yeah, so maybe it's a whole maintenance issue of adherence to that ADHD medication, which is kind of an oxymoron, right? Kids who are ADHD, like, how come you're not taking medication? I forgot. Well, yeah, you know. I guess that makes sense. You legitimately have this. You're going to forget stuff.
Dexter's medication was fine.
All right, so we've ruled out medication. He's doing well. What were you saying right here?
School gets hard in 8th grade, like algebra.
Sure, task demand could be the issue here.
Maybe something happened at home, like a divorce or death in the family.
Nice. Something could have happened at home.
Maybe he just quit trying.
Yeah, I'm tired of this. I don't want to do school anymore.
Maybe it's his teachers.
Yeah, there could be something going on. You're right. This could be a teacher issue. Anything else?
Maybe the pressure to like do good in 8th grade and pass to go to high school was just too much.
Sure. Not only increased task demand, but just kind of bigger expectations. Starting to really see the bigger picture and the implications of what the bigger picture is. Anybody else?
Perhaps the teachers with more students in classes aren't really catering to his needs.
Yeah, you're in an overcrowded classroom, which happens way more times than we would hope. Could be at a new campus, could have changed to a new building. So many kids in there. Unable to provide the sports that he needs. Anybody else?
Could be social things, could be gangs, could be drugs, could be girls getting rejected by them. I mean, it could be something as simple as not wanting to go to school.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure, and I think that goes along with what a couple people have said about social issues. The fact that he has that disorder called being in 8th grade.
That adolescence
He
phase.
might have had older relatives that didn't make it out of high school, and now high school's becoming real.
Sure.
And so he's worried that he's just going to get dropped out as well.
Perhaps his models of those who have gone through the educational process, every single person he's seen hasn't made it past here. So it's really hard to see when everybody else in your family didn't make it past that point.
Or their parents have really high expectations because older siblings didn't do well in school.
Sure, so we have the opposite spectrum too. They did so well in school that Dexter's like, well, darn it.
That middle child syndrome does exist.
My brother Alex was the perfect example of that. My brother Albert, so freaking smart. And then Alex came out and was like, I'm going to do everything to not be like him. And boy, he succeeded. Totally succeeded. So Brittany, what did happen with Dexter?
So Dexter was another real case I had. Dexter's parents actually had gotten a divorce. Mom moved across the state of Texas, leaving Dad to become a single parent with him. So coupled with the divorce over the summer and adjusting to a single parent household, Dexter shut down and became depressed, along with the ADHD. So we had to do counseling services for him.
Excellent job.
Good job.
Great work.
Okay, so intervention. There's a lot of things that we can do actually with intervention. Brittany kind of mentioned earlier about how we can help implement, evaluate, and change academic and behavioral interventions. I think the best case that I had for my academic intervention was this girl who was in 3rd grade, and she had moved from another school, and she had like some gaps in her math. very artsy, fine arts school that she attended, and so math and science were not very kind of well put together, or wasn't really taught as thoroughly as the school had wanted it to be. In this situation, she kind of was missing these basic math facts. You know, just having the higher order of like 3 + 9 and being able to do that quickly. And so what the teacher did was ask for me to come help with that. In a sense, I kind of like assessed quickly what was going on. I used a lot of the reports from the teacher and found something that we could do that was like 15 minutes a day for a couple weeks to help her get back up where she needed to be, and kind of fill that gap. Because essentially in this situation, it was a lack of education. And as we all know, a lack of education does not give you special ed services. So I think that was probably one of the best things that happened there. Behavioral interventions, that could mean, you know, there's one child in your class that is not following the rules like the rest, and you don't quite know why, and you're like, okay, I have no idea what's going on with this kid, you know, what can I do? Usually we'll come and sit and observe, figure out, you know, use your reports as well as our observations to kind of be like, okay, this is what's going on. We'll even talk to the kid at this point, and kind of help figure out what's the best way to help this child. What's the best way for this child to be able to sit there and listen and get the academic learning that is needed to succeed in that grade. Also, y'all have talked about counseling. So we do provide psychological counseling to help resolve interpersonal or family problems that interfere with school performance. I think the last part is actually a biggie. Although our program is trained to where we can do counseling outside of the schools, a lot of times in order to get them services within the school, it has to be school related, or it has to be interfering with their school performance. Right now at Donald, I have several different students that I'm working with a variety of different issues. Some have had anger management issues where they keep on getting in fights, and they're like, okay, like, we don't know what's going on. You know, the typical kind of disciplinary action is not working out. And so I kind of sat down and was able to figure out, okay, this kid is just impulsively fighting. And this kid didn't even have ADHD. It was just an impulse for them to, once they were picked on, to fight back. And so I had to help teach them and kind of help them manage their anger, find what's a better way to handle things. Actually, that's when some teachers actually came into really good handy with that, because that kid felt very comfortable with certain teachers and being able to go talk to them, and just, you know, having them be able to adjust to the school a lot better. Other kids have difficulties with social anxiety, so when it comes to any speech or project or reading out loud, they are not allowed it, and it ends up hindering a lot of their learning. Another kid, I think, was a divorce issue in which she was not able to handle the divorce and was kind of spacing out during classes, really didn't care about school at that point because her focus was on her family. So I think a lot of it, you can do some counseling within that, and we can also kind of consult or help with the interventions, either academically or behaviorally. I think the greatest part is that we have been trained on what academic learning looks like. What does behavioral, what behavior things can we help with? We've learned a lot about behavioral interventions and what to do. And honestly, we not only know what to do, but we can also look up new ways to handle things or new systems that are out there. Let's see. We also work directly with children and their families to help resolve problems in adjustment and learning. I think the best example for this would be a child that's new to a school. It's a different environment for both the family and the child. Specifically, even if it's a child from another country, helping them adjust to this new school environment, helping them adjust and be part of kind of their advocate and making sure that they doing well, and they have the resources that they need. The last one, we provide training in an array of skill areas. So as I said earlier, like I did anger management with one of the children. I have another child that I'm working with on social skills. They're just not quite there with their peers on the social skills. And so just teaching them how to make friends and helping them adjust to the social life in school makes a huge difference.
How many of you know what cutting behavior looks like? Cutting. That's one of the new big things that we're coming across, especially in the Bryan College Station schools. And one of the things that you guys as teachers can do, even as student teachers and as, I'm 90% sure, as even senior method students, you can go talk to the counselor or school psychologist and, hey, listen, little Johnny, there's something going on. There's just something going on. I'm seeing scars, I'm seeing brush cuts, something's going on. And they can pull little Johnny in and get a counselor. You guys are gonna be the best referrals for counseling because you guys, again, see them every day for a majority of the day. Okay, you see how their behaviors change. So if they went through high school, long-term break or long-term relationship all of a sudden ends, kid becomes super withdrawn. That's the key. All right, so you guys know kind of what to look for. It's how we can help you to make sure they're still engaged and so that they're not missing your classes and that you're not gonna have to deal with anything you shouldn't have to deal with.
Just a couple of points to add to that. It's actually really interesting what we're seeing right now, and what Brittany mentioned about this cutting is that it's this non-suicidal cutting that kids are engaging in, which is kind of taking a lot of us in the profession and a lot of research. We're kind of taken aback by it. Because generally when you see self-harm behaviors, they're usually very, very highly associated with wanting to kill yourself. But we're seeing a ton of this. It's, in fact, our, NAS, which is the National Association for School Psychologists, they just dedicated their most recent, monthly newsletter to, non-suicidal self-injurious behaviors, which we're still scratching our heads a little bit about because we're a bit behind in terms of...
We're behind the times because it's not something research and the profession has always seen as cutting and self-injury had always been associated with suicide. Now all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute, not everybody who cuts is trying to commit suicide. So.
In the school that I'm at right now for senior methods, it's kind of an outbreak within friend circles.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So-
it's funny, we say it's contagious.
Yeah.
It sounds weird, but that's kind of the term we use. Yeah, it spreads.
Yeah, it's a sociological phenomenon as well. So if you see one student have it, chances are it's spreading within the friendship circle and it'll spread farther and farther.
And just so we're clear, it's not like touching someone, you get like, oh, I'm gonna be a cutter all of a sudden. Just in case you were confused about how things like that spread.
Well, usually when I was in middle school, it was eating disorders that were, I don't want to say going around, but that's kind of what.
Yeah, it's the new trend because it was, when we were growing up, it was the eating disorders. And
Maybe now it's more cutting based or.
cutting is also more easily accessible, whereas eating disorders are more associated with high SES?
Yes, eating disorders, it's more
Or so it's just
associated.
eating disorders.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna go into Dallas Children's to go and help with the clinic up there next year. But a lot of it is a lot more body image, whereas cutting kind of, I feel like it's kind of associated with depression in a sense that they're trying to figure out how to deal with it and cope with it. And
It can be a variety of reasons.
yeah, well, yeah. I guess the case that I've seen is like that, but essentially there's
It could be cigarette burns too. Males have the tendency to burn themselves, whereas females have the tendency to cut. So watch your males with cigarettes and cigarette burning.
So we don't want to like.
I don't want to scare you.
Yeah, I sometimes feel like when we give these talks, you're like, oh my gosh, my students are all gonna be gutters. What am I gonna do? Sorry. No, it's like it's not at all.
No, sorry.
What we're saying about this. No, we're just trying to give you some ideas, kind of like we talked about with the 2 case examples that we've done. Keep your eyes open. You know, it could be something that you weren't ever suspecting. We're trained to be detectives. So we want to kind of give you guys that idea of like, okay, we can be detectives too, to try and find these things out.
Yes.
Yeah.
What about, I've seen a lot of like, they get an eraser and just basically just burn their skin off.
It's a form.
Very similar type,
And then
type
I
thing.
mean,
You can do rubber band popping.
Yeah.
And some of it can be very, in some ways where you see with a lot of younger kids, where they engage in maybe self-injurious behavior because it's stimulating in some way. I like the way it feels when I, scratch my arm so much to the point that it bleeds. I don't really want to hurt myself, but I just, that's something that is, a good sensation to me. And so that has to, again, kind of like what Amanda was saying, we try and work on replacement behaviors there. And really some sort of self-regulation too, that, it's with that idea of aggression. You don't just want to replace aggression where they just go out and like break a baseball bat over a piece of wood rather than someone's head. We do want to like bring it down to a level where, okay, we're reducing the instances when we do get angry.
I'll say with the eraser, sometimes it's like a racer challenge where they're both trying to figure out who can which hold it the longest, which is not really an appropriate thing to do. But it's also
Also be aware of whatever new phases and games are in your schools. The choking game, the knockout game, whatever is new nowadays. I don't know.
All right, before we go to the next slide, so I guess just kind of as a little transition, how many are going to be elementary school teachers?
My sister's in elementary at major, or just graduated.
Yeah, all the power to you. I just like,
Yeah, congratulations.
man. When I taught high school, it was just like, oh.
No, you guys, sorry.
All right, middle school teachers?
Yeah.
Excellent. And where are our high school teachers?
Maybe.
Is that like a thing just in the fall? Or like, are there like no high school teachers?
Is middle school and high school together?
Oh.
It's a separate program.
Oh, it's a separate one. Oh, it's like a whole other animal. Ah, cool. I know. I did. Trust me, I've been timing this. I know. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and keep going. I'm gonna talk a little bit about school-wide prevention, and then Elaine just made it over to us, so she'll speak for a little bit. So prevention programs. This is something where school psychologists can kind of help you guys consult on a much wider system-wide level. So designing programs for children at risk of failing school or dropping out in later grades. There are a lot of factors that put kids at risk and already on that trajectory, sadly from a pretty young age. Who can call out some of those things that we know of that are risk factors for dropout? Okay, low SES? Retention? Teen pregnancy? Drugs or gangs, which broadly is delinquency, yes. What else?
Something generational.
Sure, generational. If they're in a family like we talked about, where just kind of family of dropouts. Yep.
Having to provide for their family because of lack of parental.
Yeah, so this idea of lack of parental support is big. One thing that you guys have a great opportunity to do is to be that positive adult influence, which is shown time and time again to be sometimes the linchpin between a kid who's going to succeed in school and others who won't. So designing programs for children at risk. These are things where we can consult on a school-wide program. It could be an after-school program. It could be something pumped into the curriculum where we try and get kids back on board so that they don't drop out, so that we can kind of end that cycle with them. Promoting tolerance, understanding, appreciation of diversity within the school community. This could be something when it comes to a professional development. How do we embrace and deal with diversity within our community? In case you haven't realized, College Station is not necessarily the most diverse place that we have in Texas. So this could be something that you guys encounter, these issues with diversity. How do we kind of meld two kind of conflicting worlds? And it may be something where the home life of the child is in conflict with the expectations at school. It doesn't have to be something so big as racial diversity or ethnic diversity or sexual orientation or anything like that. It can be just conflict in the expectations at home versus the expectations at school. Develop programs to make schools safer and more effective learning environments. PBIS, Positive Behavioral Intervention Supports, which you guys have probably heard about, is that idea when you're at your school and your school uses like the acronym CHAMPS, all right? And everybody follows CHAMPS. And everyone's a champ and you can like do this, all of that, So we can help you with that. That's actually something that, when done really well, has a good way to make a really cohesive learning environment. Honestly, it was something I struggled with as a teacher, of knowing what the school's expectations are, knowing sadly that some teachers didn't really enforce those expectations, and then being in my classroom of like, how do I, sometimes you'll see in a system, I think there's a better way to deal with this discipline issue than what's being done. Sometimes that happens. And there's, we can always help with, how do we help you work within the system that you're in? How do we help you work within the school that you're in, with the unique challenges that are at that school? If you're at a low SES school, if you're at a really high SES school, which presents its whole other idea of challenges. I mean, don't think that just because you're in low SES that like, you do have a lot of challenges, but those teachers who have the helicopter parents emailing them about 7 times a day, yeah, that's terrible. The two girls who went to Ursuline, you know what that's like. I mean, yeah. Collaborate with school staff and community agencies to provide services directed at improving psychological and physical health. Sometimes you may realize that there's an issue in your classroom or an issue with any of your students, and you know that this student needs services, but you don't know where to find them. Perhaps you have a student in your class and you learn, oh my gosh, they just became homeless. They're not living in a home anymore. They're living out of their car. They don't have anything to eat at night. I can't go adopt this child and bring them into my home. I can't feed this child every night, but I do want to find the resources for this child so that, this child and family can get back on their feet. Finding those resources is really important. And there are numerous resources at your school, people that you can talk to. If you have somebody at your school who's worked at the school for 30 years, chances are they know that community pretty well. As you all know, who's your best friend at your school in terms of other staff? Secretary and your maintenance person. Because when Claire pukes in your classroom, you better know your maintenance person so that they come fast. Unless you want to clean up puke all on your own. It's fine. That's fine. But I knew my maintenance guy so well. He was awesome. Sergio.
And if something breaks, you want to know your maintenance person.
Yeah, exactly. Know your school secretary and your maintenance person. Don't let them go overlooked, because they're the people that are going to make your life so much easier in your school. Develop partnerships with parents and teachers to promote healthy school environments. A lot of the times you'll find in conferences, sometimes parents just don't know. And we're quick. I was quick to do this as a teacher, where I would, have some parents where I was like, what are you doing? This is clearly not helpful to your child. But we don't know the shoes that they're in at that point. We don't know if it's something because, like their children, they just have never been taught that this was something that they should be doing. Where culturally, the expectation is not that they are involved in the educational process. You're the teacher, you're the expert, thank you, do all the work. I'll just sit back. They haven't been taught that. They don't know that. So feel free at any point. We want to, sometimes school psychologists can help with these type of professional development type things, making you aware of the fact that if you deal with very traditional Hispanic families, you will be the expert, that parent will take a back seat, and anything that you do is absolutely okay. You could be a horrible teacher.
Not that any of you will be.
You could be doing terrible pedagogical practice, but because you're the teacher, because you're in that area of authority, you're the expert. So to make you aware of that, gosh, they're going to see me as the expert, I understand now maybe why they're less involved. How can I help them to become more involved and give them the tools? So we would lead, sessions like that, and obviously on a one-on-one consultation basis would be available. Now we're going to turn it over to the most seasoned school psychologist in the room.
Okay.
I introduced you at the beginning.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I didn't say where you went to school and everything. So
yeah, well, that's probably the most important thing. Well, howdy. Howdy. My name is Elaine Blakely, and I am a proud undergraduate student of this great university. I also have the privilege of being a graduate student, and as I tell my colleagues all the time, I'm going to end up with 3 degrees from, in my opinion, the best university in the nation. So, anyways, I'm very happy to be here. I'm very happy to be here to talk to you guys. They have asked me to come in and talk a little bit about crisis intervention. I just last week actually completed a training where I'm now nationally certified in crisis intervention by the Board of School Psychologists. And so I really want you guys, throughout my part of this presentation, this is going to be more interactive. So participation is great. And feel free to ask questions, I guess, at the end about this as well. So, crisis intervention, really the purpose of it is to help our families, our staff, and our students manage situations that could cause emotional, physical distress within our schools. Okay? So this kind of comes out as a very wide variety of things. Can anyone give me an example of maybe something you've seen in the news recently that you would consider to be a school crisis? Yes, ma'am.
Soda just didn't reinstate their teacher contracts.
Okay, great. What else? That's a good one. Yes, ma'am. Very good. That's the one that I feel like is the most visible. Okay, so all of our school shootings, that is definitely a crisis. Yes, sir?
Last year when I was teaching high school, we had 2 bomb threats.
2 bomb threats. Bomb threats are crisis within the schools. What else? Yes, ma'am.
The explosion in West.
The what?
The explosion in West.
Exactly. That's a great one. Sometimes we forget that a school is an aspect of a greater community, and our students and our staff are a part of that community. So any natural disaster like West, like the tornadoes that often occur in Oklahoma, those, even though they may or may not directly impact our school building, it impacts our community, which is what our school functions in. What else?
Student death.
Student death. Good.
The evacuations in Southern California because of like the deluge of rain that's coming.
Great. So natural disasters are a big one. And we like to call those in crisis intervention the acts of God, the ones you can't control, right? Okay. It's hard to prepare for those, but there's ways that we can create plans for that. Okay, so y'all have come up with some really good ones. The death of a teacher, a major accident where students have been injured. That's actually what I'm dealing with at my campus right now. I forgot to mention that. I work right now in Katy ISD on a campus of 3,400 high school students. So, and I work in a very low SES community, and we have a lot of gang activity, a lot of neglect, a lot of abuse that goes on in our community. Another one that we've seen that sometimes we don't
see necessarily as a crisis would be a student getting injured on the playground, maybe, and breaking a leg, and several students witnessing that act. That is considered a crisis. Okay? So, my follow-up question to that is, what do you guys think your role as teachers or educators would be in a school crisis? There's not really a one specific answer. Support? What do you mean?
Emotional support, obviously, get them out of, if they break their leg, get them to where they need to be.
Right, good. So emotional support, yes?
Sometimes, putting aside the one kid, when the student that they can't do it.
Exactly. So recognizing the needs of your classroom and choosing to be flexible with those needs. What else? Yes, ma'am? Protect. Exactly. That's a big one, especially in the natural disasters, making sure you're the facilitator to get your students protected and safe, right? Also, when we do lockdowns, if there's an active shooter and things like that, that's your responsibility. What else? Stay calm. I like that one. That's one of the things that we do in my district a lot of training and in-services on for teachers is reminding you guys that we want to help you. We are, as the staff, as the school psychologists, as the mental health providers on your campus, are there for you as well. But also trying to remind you that your mental health is important to us, and if you can't handle to be in a situation, it's okay to pull yourself out. You don't have to necessarily be strong for your students if you can't handle it. For example, we had a death. 2 of our students in my school were fatally shot. One of the teachers had a really close working relationship with that. Part of being a good educator is being able to say, I need to pull myself out of this situation, and being able to be self-reflective of that and recognizing that you need support from us, okay? Because one thing in crisis is to remember is that we are working as a unit, all right? So that's really important. Trying to stay calm, but also recognizing your limits, okay? For example, I had a student pass away from cancer I guess it was in the fall. And we had a teacher, her English teacher, who just lost her husband in a battle for cancer. So recognizing that she could not necessarily be the emotional support that they needed in that situation. Okay, so recognizing your limits is just as important. Another thing that I want to remind you guys about is that you guys are the educators. You guys are with the students every day, in and out, in the trenches, in the highs, right? So you guys have the source of information that we need, okay? So if you guys know the day-to-day life, I'm sure they've talked to you guys a little bit about that, about intervention. You know the day-to-day life of your students and what's going on. If you notice that something is abnormal, part of your responsibility is referring them possibly to us to assist them. You guys may know they lost a parent. And talking to us as the school psychologist and communicating is something that we need your help with. Because as much as I love all 34 of the 3,400 students that are on my campus, I cannot physically get to know each one of them. So I rely on the educators very strongly to let us know about things that are going on. Okay? So that's part of the crisis, a little bit about crisis in terms of the role that you guys play. Mostly, you're right, support, but you're also a great source of information, and don't forget the power that you have in that, okay? Discussing violence. Okay, another thing to think about, and I know you guys probably throughout your curriculum have talked a lot about this, but it's really important to the best of your ability, educate students about violence, about bullying, about things that aren't necessarily appropriate in terms of, we did a workshop in College Station ISD called My Body Belongs to Me, and we talked to our elementary school students about essentially sexual abuse in a very puppeted type of way, okay? But they left that in service and went back into the classrooms, okay? So who are they with? Y'all. All right, so being open to discussing that and looking for us as resources, the mental health providers or your nurses, to help you in some of those discussions as needed. So, yeah, that's all.
All right, so this is kind of how we want to, kind of wrap up, is how do we help you guys? In the end, I think what we can offer, you all are the source and wealth of information, but we want to help you understand the whole child. And I think this is something that we have to consciously work on as school psychologists, and we should also work on as educators too. Sometimes when we see kids and they're really struggling, we see this is a deficit of theirs. We see this one area of struggle and this one area of need. But sometimes we don't stop and realize, but they're really excellent at this. And they're doing a fantastic job here. So the kid who is so disruptive and cannot sit in his seat and is always moving around the classroom may actually just be a kid looking for responsibility. Is a kid who's looking to be challenged. Somebody who wants a bigger role than the role that they're actually getting in the classroom. But to us, they drive us crazy because you're out of their chair and you're trying to teach and they're just roaming around the classroom, doing whatever they want, getting like 600 Kleenexes and pulling them out of the box. Like, you don't need that many, I promise. We're using the hand sanitizer like 10 times. Not because they have a germ issue, but because they don't want to sit down. So we want to help you understand the child, but we want to try and give you a holistic view of that kiddo. And it is hard. I mean, I could rattle off names to you of the kids and exactly where they sat of the ones that I really had to work hard on this with. Where it was like, okay, what do you bring to the table that doesn't make me want to just kick you out every single second of this classroom? We have to think about that. Because there were those kids who did bring a lot to us. For those of you who are teaching middle school and even in elementary, when you guys switch, perhaps in, for math, science, one teacher is doing that, and then English, social studies, something else. You may see that your kiddo responds completely differently to one teacher than they do to another. And that's not going to be uncommon. And there could be a whole host of reasons why that's happening. The teacher could be providing, it could be difference in instruction, could be difference in frustrational level with that academic task, could be something about that classroom. Maybe the fluorescent lights aren't nearly as bright in Miss Smith's classroom across the hall. And that kid really digs that. But when they go into your classroom, those lights are so bright that they're just gonna go nuts. So you're gonna see those differences, and individual kids are gonna react to different environments in different ways, whether it's a teacher, whether it's task demand. All of these things are gonna be different for every child. And like we said, we have the tier 1 that we try for every kid, but sometimes, all the time, we need differentiation. So we want to kind of help you guys find out what makes kids tick. You have a lot of that information, and maybe you don't realize it at the time, but sometimes it takes a different set of eyes or a different set of questions to help you realize, oh, I did know this all along. Or this was something that I could have been trying. We can also provide knowledge about evidence-based practices and methods of learning. I know that there's sometimes this tension of like, okay, here comes the psychologist, they're going to tell me to try this intervention, I've tried it, it doesn't work, you don't have 18 kids in here. I know. We know that. But that's where that communication that we talked about earlier comes into play. We need to hear from you. If you think that this is totally unrealistic, because the best evidence-based practice isn't going to work if you don't use it. It's like that really nice so my dad grew up in France, and then he went back there for college. And the host woman that he lived with had this beautiful refrigerator. And you know what she did with it? So that it wouldn't break, she left it in the box and never used it. And he was like, Madame, why don't you use it? She was like, it'll break. So I'm going to leave it in the box. He was like, that might be one of the weirdest things I've ever heard. So we have all these great practices, but if you don't use them, well, they're certainly not going to be of help to you. Just like Madame's refrigerator was utterly useless. Took up a lot of space. She didn't even take it out of the box and store stuff in it that didn't need to be chilled. She left it in the box. It's crazy. We have a lot of tools. We want to help you use them. Communicate with us. Ask us questions so that we can help you use it effectively in your classroom. And along those lines, I'm sure your instructors have already told you this,
But if you have this idea that you're going to have the perfect classroom and all of your kids are just going to listen attentively every day and sit there quietly and come on in, I think that maybe you should have considered another profession earlier in your in your college career. And if you still are holding on to that, okay, your student teaching will reveal to you that that's just unrealistic and absurd. So,
At some point, very, very soon.
Abandon all hopes of perfection. I think you'll find your job a whole lot easier when you do that. You'll stay in the profession a lot longer. Because, okay, it's not going to be perfect. There are going to be things that go wrong. My lesson is going to bomb some days, even when you think it's awesome. Like, yes, my LP is so good today. And then you get up there and 10 minutes in, it's like, what are you talking about? You're like, oh, I have 40 minutes left to figure something out. What am I doing? Yeah, it's just not, it's not going to be perfect. Some years you're going to have a way more difficult classroom than you have in other years. That happens. But we want to help you do the best job that you can and serve every child the best way possible within your capabilities. It may not be the ultimate, we get that. But we want to help you do the best job that you can. Provide knowledge about behavioral principles, kind of like those case examples that we talked about, helping you dig a little bit deeper when maybe it's just not a fluency issue or a speech issue. Maybe it's a whole conglomeration of things that come together. Finally, an understanding of special education eligibility or other mental health impairments. This is our tier 3. So we can give you a lot of that insight. Even if you're a gen ed teacher and feel like a child needs some kind of tier 3 support, and you're not necessarily a special ed teacher, we can try and help you understand what that process is like, and realistically, would this child, do we see that this child has a chance to kind of qualify for those supports, whether it is academically, emotionally, or because of something else like another health or mental impairment.
All right, so the moral of this, the reason why we actually asked to come speak to you guys, like I stated before, my sister graduated in December with an elementary education degree from here. Her and her best friend asked me all the time during their senior methods and during their student teaching about specific cases they had. And so they were just like, you should talk to these people. It's a great session. Because we don't get this. We don't get how to talk to anybody outside of our classroom. And so we're here to help you. We're here to answer your questions about whatever in the school. We've all been in the school at one time or